you're a first generation child of a first generation parent in Australia, this is how you can tell you've been passed on a generational curse, which is the survival mode mentality virus. In short, I'll call it the SMMV, and the symptoms are you were actually not born in Australia. You came here when you were about 2 to 5 years old. Your parents were in their late 30s or 40s when they came to Australia, and they spoke mild to zero English. And fresh off the boat, fresh off the plane, out of the oven, you were just plumped and parked in some kindergarten school in a suburb that had a lot of ethnics that looked like you. And most likely on your first day of school, you spoke zero English. And with this as a premise, the most important symptom is from kindy to primary to high school, whilst other kids in your grade look to their second to fifth generational parents for guidance. Because obviously their parents have been through the whole schooling system from kindy to primary to high school and also worked in the workforce in Australia, whilst for your first generational parent, everything is new. While you're trying to kickstart your life from kindy to prime to high school, whilst comparing your life to the second to fifth gen parents who give guidance to the kids in your grade, you at an early age from childhood to adulthood start to feel anxiety, frustration, because every time you seek your first generational parents for guidance, these guys over here, your parents, will say things like, hey, look, we don't speak English. You got to figure this out yourself. And on top of that, you got to succeed here in Australia, okay? And we got you here. We made a lot of sacrifices to get you here. The least you could do is succeed. And they'll guilt trip you and they'll say things like, hey, we're already in our late 40s and 50s. You need to carry on the flame for the family. You know, we sacrificed so much to get you here. Like my dad, when he came to Australia, he was already in his 50s. When I came to him for guidance, he'll be like, dude, man, I got you here, man. I fight the Cambodian pirate. I fight so many people. I jump from boat to boat, avoid the shark attack. And I got you here. Do you know how lucky you are, Q? So many kids want to be in your position, but right now they are skeleton and bone in the Khmer Rouge Museum. But you are here complaining to me. Just like that, boom, they shut you off. You know, you're just left alone with your anxiety and frustration dealing with this whole thing of kindy, primary school, and dealing with everything all by yourself. As a child back then, like myself and many others that are in the same boat as me, when you yell and scream because you're so frustrated, you can't handle this early stage of anxiety and pressure to succeed because you're only like 5 or 6. Every time you try to reach out to your parents for that guidance, that help that the second to fifth gen parents offer, that will shut you off because they were triggered and they will just tell you to deal with it instead of teaching you how to handle that frustration and anxiety. And thus, this starts the SMMV, which is the survival mode mentality virus, because it was a symptom your parents had before back in their country, how their parents taught them. So they've passed this on to you, which is the go figure it out yourself, go deal with it yourself, whilst on top of that, make sure you succeed. And out of filial piety, because you want to become a good boy or good girl to your parents, you accept this unreasonable pressure. And once you take consent to this unreasonable gaslighting pressure, you have then infected SMMV, which is the survival mode mentality virus. At a very young age, you start to learn to mature. You start to accept that it's do or die. It's to survive or be killed, like you were back in, you know, the communist era where people were trying to kill you, your parents were running away, you know, pirates were after you. It was do or die, fight or flight. And for people like myself who have contracted SMMV and like other first gens that have contracted SMMV from our parents, we kill it in terms of our career, all right? In terms of building wealth, we kill it. We are like Bear Grylls, you versus wild, right? This is like do or die. But internally, we are fucked, okay? I've spent more than $50,000 on my inner child work, that healing of that trauma. And I'm telling you right now, for those of us that have contracted the SMMV, you know, we have this subconscious self-loathing of our life right now, right? Like we subconsciously think it's unfair. We are responsible for healing this trauma that we didn't ask for. Like in the past, before this whole self-development that I have been going through myself, is that when I feel frustrated or anxious about something I can't control, I will usually evaluate that I'm not good enough or it's somehow my fault. And instead of learning to deal with my frustration or channel it in a healthy way where I can reparent myself, which I've been doing, I would just basically shut it off, like the way my parents shut me off, and just deal with it, all right? Just go and deal with it, Q. Shut the F up and deal with it. And thus drive the survival mode mentality virus deeper into my core with this amount of unreasonable pressure mounting every single day. And this is what I want to say to these first gen that have watched thus far and still watching in this video, is that you may have contracted SMMV, and it's something you can stop that, because what happens is you actually subconsciously pass on this survival mode mentality virus onto your second generation kids, or if your kids are just born right now, you're gonna pass this subconsciously onto them. But look guys, I'm not blaming my parents for giving me SMMV, because that's where their parents gave it to them, which got us here in Australia. We just survived it and made it. It was a means to an end. And look, SMMV is a double-edged sword. I mean, it drives the individual to achieve, to succeed no matter what. And I have succeeded here as a first gen. I have multiple investment properties. I have a business I've been running for 15 years, very successful. And yes, I'm making good money. But I just want you to be aware of the costs, right? I'm still dealing with my trauma. Like, just to give you an example, right? So I'll be in a room, right? And I'll be talking to you, for example. But because my SMMV is still ingrained in my heart and soul, my core, I can hear every conversation around me, right? This person talking, that person talking. Why? Because I'm in SMMV. I'm in bloody survival mode. I can't cut that off. All I want you to know is to be aware that there is a SMMV virus being passed down from generation to generation. It is a generational curse. So be careful of it, and be careful whether you want to consciously pass that to your kids. I'm very careful now how I parent my kids, because I over tendency drive them, but I usually pull back. But I just want you to be aware of it, and hopefully this video serves you well. And thank you for watching thus far.